What is going on, guys, and welcome to a brand new video. And today we're going to be breaking down the Alchemist versus Puck matchup. Hopefully you guys do enjoy. Now I wanted to ask you guys to leave a comment down below and let me know what other series you guys would like to see here on the channel, as I'm currently looking for ideas. And maybe you guys would like to see different types of guides, or maybe you guys would like to see just pure gameplay or live gameplay. Let me know in the comments below what type of series you guys would like to see next on the channel. So let's get straight into the matchup. So this is an Alchemist favorite lane. It's such a strong lane for the Alchemist. Now, mid Alchemist is not something that's extremely popular. It's definitely viable, but it's not something that can be played every single game or anything like that, as this hero has a lot of counters. But when it comes to playing against Puck, he's actually quite favored because he is strong enough to deal with the Puck. He has a stun. Even though the Puck can phase shift and dodge the stun, it's not really the biggest part of it. I think Acid Spray is your biggest tool against the Puck, because that minus armor and that chip damage is going to be nice. You're going to be forcing a lot of resources from the Puck, and you can easily starve him out, especially if you like to bring supports into the mid lane to contest the water runes. It could be a really big problem for the Puck if he doesn't have that water rune. And honestly, it's one of the best things you can do from the mid lane if you're playing the Alchemist. And another thing you guys need to make sure you are doing every single time, or at least as much as possible, is every single minute try and go and stack the closest camp. You can push the lane with Acid Spray, so you're not going to be losing out on farm, and it's just going to give you that extra little bit of efficiency to be a lot stronger and hit that radiance timing, which is going to be really solid. If you can hit a 10 to 12 minute radiance on a mid Alchemist, it's going to be fine. It's going to be really strong. Because if you hit a 15-16 minute radiance on a mid Alchemist, it's going to be a really big problem for your team, as you are a very greedy mid laner and you need to make sure you have that radiance going. That way it not only boosts your farm efficiency, it also helps you fight. It gives you that extra damage, which is always going to be really viable and really important for this hero to thrive as a mid laner. And it's going to eventually become that second carry. But since you're being a very greedy mid laner, you need to make sure you're farming constantly and join the fights that are going to be favorable for you. Pre-radiance, I honestly wouldn't recommend joining any type of fights, because any bad fight will make your radiance timing incredibly long. So it's a really big issue if you are wasting your time with really bad team fights. Obviously, if you're walking around and there's a support who can be easily cleaned up, definitely go for it. But other than that, don't TP to the bottom lane. Help your carry out, because sometimes it's actually just better to let your carry die. It's going to be a lot better for you because that radiance timing is extremely important. Now, your starting build on the Alchemist versus the Puck is going to be 2 to 3 branches, a fairy fire, and then you're going to go for a bottle just for that extra sustain. You're going to be able to constantly cast unstable concoction. You're going to be able to sustain your acid spray. You can go for a soul ring as well. I just think bottle from the mid lane is very important, especially with the water runes, and it gives you that extra motive to go for rune control, and rune control is going to be very important against Puck. Then you're going to be going for the treads into radiance. You could get a wand as well, but it's just going to set your radiance time a little bit further back, so it's not as great. You can go back for the wand later, and then you can go for a blink into Bloodthorn. I think Bloodthorn is really good against Puck, because most Puck players tend to be extremely greedy and not buying BKB or Yules. So you can definitely heavily benefit from having an Orchid on your team. It's going to be good for controlling the Puck. With your stun, if you Orchid into stun into Acid Spray with Chemical Rage, that Puck is most likely going to die, and you're going to be able to get rid of him quite quickly. Now, on the Puck's perspective, your starting build should also be branches with a Fairy Fire and also going for a bottle. But the twist is, I think you guys should be getting a Wraith Band. Now, you guys might be thinking, wow, that's crazy. You shouldn't be going for a Wraith Band. I think Wraith Band is really important in this matchup, because not only is it going to reduce the armor loss from Acid Spray, it's also going to help you trade with the Alchemist much better. It's going to help you right click a lot faster, and it's just overall a pretty underrated item on Puck, especially against a heavy physical lineup. And eventually you're going to upgrade into different items, so it's not a big deal for you guys to pick that up. And if you end up having a really bad game and you hit the 25-minute mark, that Wraith Band is going to double in value, so it's never going to feel too bad in keeping that in your inventory. I definitely think it's very overlooked. Then you're going to go for the treads into Witchblade, and then get a safety item, get a BKB or get a Yule Scepter. That's always going to be very strong, especially if the Alchemist is building an Orchid. You need to have a safety item, because you're going to have a really big problem with this hero in the mid to late game. You're not going to do enough damage to deal with this hero, and your silences and your kiting is not going to do a whole lot once you're faced up against an Orchid and a Radiance and an Alchemist just running at you with unstable concoction. But typically in the team fights, you want to avoid the Alchemist. You either want to control him or you want to silence him and get away. Unless you're going to fully commit onto the Alchemist, you should just ignore him and jump the backline, as it's it's either going to force the Alchemist to change targets, or it's going to force him to keep continuing to go after you, birding more time and keeping your backline essentially safe. Now for the Alchemist, you should be playing with heroes like Shadow Demon because it creates illusions of you. And once you have the Radiance, those illusions are going to be quite strong for the Shadow Demon to farm and also to push lanes. It's going to be a very nice tool for him to have. You can play with Grimstroke, you can play with Dark Willow and Lich. I think Dark Willow is one of the strongest supports with Alchemist, just because Bedlam is really strong. She can easily set up plays for you, and it's just very nice to have that extra bit of damage when you're jumping a target with Blink Dagger. Definitely keep that in mind. Lich is going to make you overall much tankier. And when it comes to Puck, you want to be playing with heroes like Shadow Shaman, you want to be playing with Lion, maybe Rubik. These heroes that can just disrupt the plays of the Alchemist, because early on he's not going to have a BKB, so you need to abuse that. You need to make sure you're able to kite him. So heroes like Shadow Shaman and Lion especially are very strong because they have instant hexes. Shadow Shaman has shackles and Lion has mana drain. Alchemist mana pool is pretty terrible, and if you're able to stun lock him, he can easily die pre-BKB, so he's quite a susceptible hero. Silence into hex into stun into finger could be the potential death of the Alchemist. So if you guys put a lot of pressure on him, also don't let the Alchemist free farm. Get around with your team or with your offlane and go find the Alchemist. You cannot give Alchemist a free game because you're gonna have a lot of issues giving this hero a free game. It's just too much gold to be giving away, and most often than not, the Alchemist is going to have his supports making stacks for him, because most teams definitely will be doing that. And if not, you should be doing that yourself, or at least asking your team to stack for you, because most times there's a bunch of new players in the game who don't understand about supporting and stacking. Just be nice to your teammates and let them know that you want some stacks to be done, and if they don't know how to do that, you should be able to tell them on how to stack. It's definitely not difficult, and if you have Dota Plus, the timers are right there. It's very easy to stack as a support. When I was learning how to play support, I was using Dota Plus for the timers. Now I definitely don't need the timers anymore because I got used to it, but it's a very great tool. I think Dota Plus is very underrated, so if you guys are new players, it's always pretty nice to have Dota Plus. So to continue the build on the Puck, once you have your Blink or your Yules, then you're going to be going for a BKB, Aghanim Scepter, and then upgrading Parasma. You could go for a Lincoln Sphere as well. You could go for a Kai Assange. If you're facing up against a high CC lineup, then you should be able to get a Kai Assange, and status resistance is king. It's always going to be nice. It's going to give you that magic amp, which is always going to be nice with all your spells. And you could also go for the Aghanim Scepter, so you get that red click once you have Parasma. Parasma is a really solid item in the current meta, so you should definitely keep that in mind. You could also go Mage Slayer on the Puck. It's not super popular, but it's definitely a very possible item. It's not insane against the Alchemist by any means, but it might be good for the game, so you can definitely pick and choose however you guys would like. You could also go E-Blade and Dagon. It's very unusual to play E-Blade Dagon on a Puck. It's not definitely insane, but it's not the most viable build out there, but it is strong against the Alchemist because you can easily blow him up without Chemical Rage. He can have a lot of issues with that pre-BKB, so if your whole purpose is to burst the Alchemist and deal with him as quickly as possible, that is a pretty decent build on how to do that. The scale of it isn't that great because the Alchemist can just buy BKB or Lincolns and just deal with it in a much easier way, but in the mid game it might be a pretty decent build for you to pick up. Most of the time you're going to be ignoring the Alchemist. If you're a good Puck player, just kite out the Alchemist, make him burn his resources, make him burn Chemical Rage, and kite him out. Once you guys decide to go on, make sure everybody commits onto him and you can easily deal with him. Make sure there's a Vessel on your team, as Alchemist is typically very heavily reliant on the regen from Chemical Rage to be very tanky and very sustainable. So a Vessel would always be good, and it'll force the Alchemist to go for a Manta, and then the Vessel's not going to be really a whole lot of value, but you can get items like Shivas, which are really strong. But overall, this matchup is just very Alchemist favored. It's very difficult for the Puck to do a whole lot of anything. You can put a lot of mid pressure on and bring supports in and maybe get the kill on the Alchemist. You could get your supports to block his camps, but overall, if you are able to shut down the Alchemist, you're going to be doing quite well. You can put a lot more pressure than the Alchemist can on the side lane. So if you make sure you have rune control, that can definitely swing the matchup a little bit, as the Alchemist is going to be farming for his Radiance. You're going to be able to pressure the side lanes and put a lot more effort than the Alchemist will, because he is focused on his timings and you don't really depend a whole lot on timings as Puck. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. If you guys learned something, leave a comment down below and let me know if you guys are Alchemist players or if you guys are Puck players. How would you guys play this matchup and what recommendations you guys would have for new players? I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.